Now, the thing that drives visceral fat accumulation more than anything is stress. Stress drives visceral fat accumulation, and it does it through two separate mechanisms, both related to stress. The first is cortisol, the stress hormone. So the adrenal gland makes cortisol, and cortisol drives metabolically active fat, i.e. visceral fat accumulation. Okay, cortisol does that. Cortisol doesn't do very much to the subcutaneous fat. If anything, it actually causes subcutaneous fat to be depleted,
right.
Like we see in Cushing's syndrome.
Right, your body goes into like fight or flight a little bit.
A little bit, that's right. The second mechanism, aside from cortisol, is the sympathetic nervous system. Now, normally, when the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, you release norepinephrine or epinephrine, and that would go to the fat tissue and it would cause fat release. It would cause you to lose lipid. It would cause you to lose fat. And then those fatty acids that would be released would go to the liver. The liver would turn those into ketones, which we'll talk about today, and then the ketones could be used for energy without insulin. That's sort of how it happens. Now, when the sympathetic nervous system is chronically overstimulated, not only does it release norepinephrine, but it releases a second neuropeptide called neuropeptide Y, NPY.
And those two go hand in hand.
And those two go hand in hand. Every neuron that releases an adrenergic also releases neuropeptide Y. Turns out neuropeptide Y is the brake. It actually stops the norepinephrine from working. It actually tells the target tissue, don't take any more norepinephrine hits.
It's trying to save you a little bit.
Trying to save, it's actually trying to protect the neuron from dying. And so what happens is it turns that neuron off. And so in the case of the adipocyte, it actually then, instead of promoting lipolysis, instead of promoting giving up your fat, it actually promotes lipogenesis and start accumulating fat. So chronic stress through both cortisol and through NPY will actually turn a fat-giving machine into a fat production machine.
Got it.
That fat, that visceral fat, is particularly egregious because it goes straight to the liver through the portal vein. So a low concentration of fatty acids will end up yielding a high impact on the liver, and then you end up with metabolic dysfunction.
Right.
And then finally, the third fat depot, liver fat. And that's what I talked about at the last talk a couple of months ago. And what is the driver of that liver fat? Alcohol and sugar. So stress, alcohol, sugar, particularly egregious in terms of the two fat depots that cause the most damage. Calories, well, that drives the fat depot that does the least damage, but looks the worst in a